Undercover owner watches waitress feed his disabled daughter. Next day, he changed her life. Why would a powerful SO go undercover as a regular customer in his own restaurant? When he witnesses a struggling waitress show extraordinary kindness to his disabled daughter, facing down her bully manager to help the child eat, he's deeply moved. The real shock comes the next day when he reveals his identity and makes her an offer that will change her life forever. Subscribe, like, and listen to the full story to find out what happened. The relentless pace of the Friday night dinner rush pressed in on Samantha Miller, a familiar, suffocating weight. Plates clattered, orders flew, and the air hung thick with the smell of fried food and hurried conversations. Her feet throbbed in her worn-out sneakers, a dull counterpoint to the sharp anxiety twisting in her gut. Rent was due. Her mother's latest medical bill sat unopened on her counter, and Frank, her manager, was prowling the floor like a starved wolf. "Miller, table 7 needs drinks now." And clear 12. It looks like a bomb hit it. "Move." Frank's voice scraped across her nerves. She forced a tight smile, murmuring, "Yes, Frank," while simultaneously balancing 3 plates on one arm. Then she saw them. The little girl in the bright pink wheelchair at table 9, her smile wide but her small hands struggling with the cutlery, and the quiet man with tired eyes sitting opposite her. Sam felt a familiar pang. She'd already taken their order, noting the man's gentle patience and the girl's cheerful chatter despite her obvious physical challenges. Now, seeing the girl accidentally drop her fork for the 3rd time, her lower lip trembling slightly in frustration, Sam made a split-second decision. Frank could yell later. She grabbed a clean fork and extra napkins and approached the table. "Need a little help, sweetie?" she asked softly, kneeling beside the wheelchair. The girl, Emma, looked up, her bright eyes clouded. "It keeps slipping. Happens to the best of us," Sam said with a conspiratorial wink, carefully cutting the chicken into smaller bites and gently guiding the fork to Emma's hand, then helping her lift it. The man watched, his expression unreadable. As Sam helped Emma take a few successful bites, making small talk about school, she felt Frank's eyes burning into her back. She knew she was spending too long, knew she'd hear about it. But the relief flooding the little girl's face, the small, triumphant smile she offered, that felt more important than Frank's inevitable wrath. She stood up, gave Emma's shoulder a quick squeeze, and turned, bracing herself. Frank was standing 3 feet away, arms crossed, face thunderous. "Having a private party, Miller," he hissed, loud enough for nearby tables to glance over. "Or are you planning on actually doing your job tonight?" The humiliation washed over Sam, hot and sharp, but the image of Emma's smile was a tiny shield. What she didn't know was that the quiet man at table 9 wasn't just watching Frank's outburst. He was committing every detail to memory. Sam, Miller's life felt like a treadmill set to high speed with the incline constantly increasing. At 25, the hopeful energy she'd carried into nursing school 2 years ago felt like a distant memory, buried under exhaustion and worry. Her days were a blur, waking before dawn in her cramped studio apartment, catching the bus across Fairview to the hospital to check on her mother before her shift, then spending 8 to 10 hours on her feet at the Cedar Spoon, a mid-range family restaurant known for its reliable comfort food and, unfortunately, its notoriously difficult Fairview branch manager. Her mother, diagnosed with aggressive cancer 18 months prior, required constant care and expensive treatments that Sam's meager waitress salary barely touched. Nursing school became an impossible dream, replaced by the immediate, crushing reality of bills and the desperate need to keep her mother comfortable. Sam was smart, capable, and possessed a deep well of empathy, traits that would have made her an excellent nurse. Now, they mostly translated into her ability to soothe demanding customers, remember complex orders, and offer quiet support to coworkers also suffering under Frank's tyrannical management. Frank ran the Fairview Cedar Spoon like his personal fiefdom. He was infamous for docking pay for minor infractions, playing favorites, yelling at staff in front of customers, and creating a toxic work environment. Complaints had been filed, Sam knew, but nothing ever seemed to change. She suspected the regional manager was either oblivious or didn't care, as long as the branch turned a profit. Sam missed her studies, missed the future she'd planned, but most days, survival was the only goal. She clung to small kindnesses, a grateful smile from a customer, a shared eye roll with Brenda, the unflappable cook, to get through the day. Her hope was a flickering candle flame, easily extinguished by a harsh word from Frank or another overdue bill. Meanwhile, miles away in a sleek corporate office, Lucas Bennett reviewed the latest quarterly reports for his restaurant chain. The numbers for the Fairview branch were adequate, but the accompanying file flagged escalating employee turnover and several anonymous complaints detailing abusive management practices and poor morale, specifically naming Frank Marino. Lucas, the founder and CEO of the Bennett Hospitality Group, which owned the Cedar Spoon chain, frowned. He'd built his company on principles of respect and quality, values instilled by his late wife, Isabella. Hearing about a manager like Frank exploiting staff went against everything he stood for. Lucas wasn't just a businessman, he was a father. 2 years ago, the same drunk driving accident that had stolen Isabella's life had left their bright, bubbly daughter, Emma, with a severe spinal cord injury, confining her to a wheelchair. Lucas's world now revolved around Emma's care and recovery. He poured resources into her therapy, advocated fiercely for her needs, and cherished every small milestone. Emma, now 10, faced her challenges with remarkable courage and optimism, but Lucas saw the shadows of grief and frustration she tried to hide. The complaints about the Fairview branch gave Lucas an idea. It was time for an unannounced, undercover visit. He could assess the situation firsthand, evaluate Frank, and perhaps gain insight into the customer experience. And he decided he would bring Emma. It would be good for her to have an outing, and her presence might offer a different perspective on the service. He told his executive team he was taking a few personal days, packed a simple, nondescript wardrobe, and prepared to visit the Cedar Spoon not as the owner, but as just another customer, a single dad out for dinner with his daughter. He needed to see the truth of the Fairview branch for himself. Lucas chose a busy Friday evening for his undercover visit, wanting to see the branch operating under pressure. Dressed in jeans and a faded polo shirt, pushing Emma's wheelchair, he felt anonymous, just Mr. Smith, as he told the hostess. The Fairview Cedar Spoon looked like most others in the chain, clean, brightly lit, decorated in comforting earth tones. But Lucas immediately sensed an undercurrent of tension among the staff. Smiles seemed strained, movements hurried and almost frantic. Their server, a young woman named Samantha with tired but kind eyes, approached their table with a professional demeanor. Lucas watched closely as she interacted with Emma, crouching slightly to speak to her directly, patiently answering her questions about the menu, her warmth seeming genuine despite the surrounding chaos. Emma, often shy around new people since the accident, responded positively to Sam's gentle manner. Ordering was simple, but eating presented challenges for Emma. Her limited hand mobility made using utensils difficult and sometimes embarrassing for her. Lucas usually helped, but tonight he deliberately held back slightly, wanting to see how the staff would handle it, or ignore it. Just as Emma's frustration began to mount after dropping her fork, Sam appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. Lucas watched, holding his breath as she knelt beside Emma. There was no pity in her expression, only empathy and quiet encouragement. She didn't make a fuss. She simply helped, cutting Emma's food, guiding her hand, chatting easily to distract her from her struggles. Emma's face lit up, her earlier frustration replaced by a beaming smile as she successfully managed several bites with Sam's assistance. "You're like a helper elf." Emma giggled. Sam laughed, a genuine, musical sound that momentarily cut through the diner's noise. "Something like that," she winked. From his vantage point, Lucas felt a lump form in his throat. He'd seen countless service interactions in his restaurants, but this level of unprompted, compassionate care was rare. It was exactly the kind of service Isabella would have championed. His observation was sharply interrupted by the arrival of the manager, Frank, whose scowling presence seemed to suck the warmth out of the air. Lucas listened, his jaw tightening, as Frank publicly berated Sam for wasting time. He saw Sam flinch but maintain her composure, apologizing quickly before hurrying away. Lucas noted the fear in the eyes of other staff members nearby, the way they avoided Frank's gaze. The contrast between Sam's quiet kindness and Frank's overt hostility was stark. Sam checked back on him later, ensuring Emma was okay, refilling drinks promptly, handling their bill efficiently, all while juggling multiple other tables under Frank's constant critical surveillance. Lucas saw her skill, her grace under pressure, and the genuine care she exhibited, not just towards Emma, but in her brief, encouraging interactions with other staff members. By the time Lucas pushed Emma's wheelchair out of the cedar spoon, his mind was made up. The complaints about Frank were clearly justified. The man was a liability. But he had also found something unexpected, a waitress named Samantha Miller, whose quiet competence and extraordinary kindness shone brightly even in the toxic environment Frank had created. His initial goal had been to assess the manager. Now it broadened. He needed to deal with Frank, yes, but he also felt compelled to understand Sam's story and recognize her potential. She deserved better than this. Lucas Bennett wasn't impulsive, but he was decisive. He spent the next 2 days gathering more information, solidifying his case against Frank Marino, while also learning more about Samantha Miller. He returned to the Cedar Spoon twice more as Mr. Smith, once during a slow lunch shift and once for breakfast, sitting at the counter where he could observe the kitchen pass and staff interactions more broadly. He saw Frank publicly humiliate a young busboy for dropping a glass, threatening to take it out of his paycheck. He overheard Frank making dismissive comments about customer complaints to Brenda, the cook, who met his remarks with stony silence. Crucially, he saw Frank pocket cash from the register when voiding an order, a clear violation and potential theft. During the lunch visit, Sam wasn't his server, but Lucas watched her handle a complicated order from a large, demanding party with unflappable politeness. He saw her quietly slip a wrapped muffin into her bag at the end of her shift, technically against the rules about leftover food, but Lucas suspected, correctly, that it wasn't for her. Later, discreetly following her route, he saw her give the muffin to a homeless man huddled near the bus stop. At breakfast, he engaged Brenda the cook in brief conversation while Frank was in the back office. Brenda was cautious, clearly wary of saying anything negative, but her sighs and terse comments about Frank running a tight ship spoke volumes. Lucas also asked casually about Sam. "Sammy." Brenda's tough exterior softened slightly. "She's a good kid. Too good for this place, if you ask me. Works hard, never complains, always helps out. Got a lot on her plate, with her mom being sick." This confirmed Lucas's impression. Sam wasn't just kind to his daughter. Her character was consistent. Meanwhile, Sam's life continued its stressful trajectory. Frank, perhaps sensing his performance was being scrutinized, though unaware by whom, seemed even more volatile. He accused Sam of shorting her till at the end of one shift, producing a convoluted calculation that resulted in nearly $20 being docked from her already meager paycheck. Sam knew it was wrong, but arguing felt futile and risky. She needed the job too desperately. She felt the pressure mounting. Her mother's condition wasn't improving, and a specialist had recommended a new, expensive medication. The weight of it all felt unbearable some days. She found herself thinking occasionally about the kind man and his sweet daughter, Emma. Their brief interaction had been a small bright spot, a reminder of the human connection missing from much of her daily grind. She had no idea the ripple effect that single act of kindness was having. Lucas, armed with first-hand observations, corroborated complaints, and evidence of potential theft, contacted his head of HR and legal counsel. He arranged for an all-staff meeting at the Fairview Cedar Spoon for the following Monday morning, before the restaurant opened. He instructed his regional manager, the one who had clearly failed in his oversight, to be present. The stage was set for a confrontation. Lucas felt a grim satisfaction about dealing with Frank, but also a sense of anticipation about what came next. He kept thinking about Sam's potential, stifled under Frank's management, and the opportunity he was about to present her. Monday morning arrived, gray and drizzling. The staff gathered in the main dining room of the Cedar Spoon, nervous murmurs rippling through the group. They'd been told the meeting was mandatory, called by corporate. Frank Marino stood near the front, arms crossed, attempting an air of nonchalant authority, though a slight sheen of sweat betrayed his nervousness. Sam stood near the back with Brenda, feeling a familiar knot of anxiety. These meetings usually meant new rules, more pressure, or budget cuts. The regional manager, a portly man named Henderson who rarely visited, stood awkwardly near the door. Then, a different man walked in, flanked by Henderson and a woman Sam didn't recognize, Lucas's head of HR. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his demeanor calm but radiating an undeniable authority. Sam's eyes widened slightly. He looked vaguely familiar, like the man from Table 9, Emma's father, but transformed. The man stepped forward. "Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Lucas Bennett, CEO of Bennett Hospitality Group." A collective gasp went through the room. Frank's jaw literally dropped. Lucas wasted no time. "I've spent the last few days here observing the operations of this branch firsthand." He gestured briefly towards his casual attire from the weekend, confirming the staff's dawning realization. "And frankly, I'm appalled by what I've witnessed under Mr. Marino's management." Lucas calmly, methodically listed Frank's transgressions: the public humiliation of staff, the disregard for company policy, the wage manipulation, the potential theft he'd personally witnessed. He presented Henderson with a concise file. "Mr. Marino, your employment is terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you out." Frank sputtered, protesting, threatening lawsuits, but the two security guards who had entered discreetly moved towards him. His bluster deflated instantly into pale-faced fear as he was led away. The remaining staff stood in stunned silence, a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming relief washing over them. Lucas addressed the room again, assuring them of his commitment to a respectful workplace and announcing Henderson would oversee the branch temporarily while a search for a qualified, ethical manager began. Then, his gaze swept the room and landed on Sam. "Samantha Miller, could I speak with you in the office for a moment?" Sam's heart leaped in her throat. "Why me?" She thought frantically. Did I do something wrong? Was it the muffin? Trembling slightly, she followed Lucas and the HR head into the small, cramped manager's office Frank had just vacated. Lucas closed the door and turned to her, his expression softening. Sam, he began, using her familiar name, please sit down. You're not in trouble. He paused, then smiled faintly. I was Mr. Smith, the man with Emma at table 9. Sam stared, speechless. What you did for my daughter the other night, the kindness and patience you showed her, especially when you were clearly under so much pressure yourself, it meant more to me than I can possibly say. Emma hasn't stopped talking about helper elf Sam. He explained why he'd been undercover and what he'd observed about her work ethic and character. You possess qualities that are far too rare, Sam. Integrity, empathy, grace under pressure. This company needs people like you, not like Frank. He leaned forward slightly, which brings me to why I called you in here. I want to offer you an opportunity. 2, actually. He outlined the options. First, step in as the new general manager of the Fairview Cedar Spoon, with full training, support, and a salary reflecting the position's responsibilities. Or second, an offer inspired by her kindness and his own family's experience. His family foundation, established in his late wife's memory, was launching a new patient advocacy program. He offered to fully fund the completion of her nursing degree, followed by a salary position within the foundation, coordinating resources for families dealing with pediatric illness and disability. My wife believed strongly in compassionate care, Lucas said, his voice thick with emotion. I see that same spirit in you. Whichever path you choose, Sam, I want to help you reach your potential. Sam sat stunned, tears welling up. It felt surreal, impossible. 2 distinct paths lay before her, each offering an escape from the dead and she'd felt trapped in, each leading towards a future she hadn't dared to dream of just days before. This was the turning point. Her life, defined for so long by struggle and limitation, had just been irrevocably changed by the observant eyes of an undercover owner and one small act of kindness. The days following Lucas Bennett's offer felt like walking through a dream for Sam. Disbelief warred with a dizzying sense of hope. Could this be real? Was she actually being offered a way out, a chance to reclaim her future? She initially felt overwhelmed, almost paralyzed by the magnitude of the choice. Managing the restaurant offered immediate financial security, a chance to fix the toxic environment Frank created and prove her capabilities. But the nursing offer, that touched the core of her abandoned dream, the desire to heal and care that had led her to enroll in nursing school in the first place. She called her mother at the hospital, whispering the news into the phone, tears streaming down her face. Her mom, weak but lucid, squeezed her hand through the receiver. "Oh, Sammy," she rasped, her voice thick with emotion. "Your dream. Take the nursing, baby. Follow your heart." That conversation helped crystallize Sam's decision. The foundation role, combined with finishing her nursing degree, felt like the path she was meant to take. It wasn't just a job. It was a calling reignited. She met with Lucas again, nervously accepting the second offer. Lucas smiled, expressing his delight. "I hope you might choose that path, Sam. I think you'll make a real difference." True to his word, Lucas and his foundation team moved swiftly. They helped Sam navigate the re-enrollment process at Fairview Community College's nursing program, arranging her funding and connecting her with academic advisors. They also set her up with a part-time, flexible administrative role at the Bennett Foundation, allowing her to earn a stable income while studying. The work involved organizing files, scheduling meetings, and learning about the Foundation's existing programs, a gentle immersion into the world she was entering. Life began to change rapidly. Sam moved her mother to a better care facility closer to her apartment. The financial burden eased by her new salary and Lucas's support in navigating insurance complexities. She threw herself into her studies with fierce determination, rediscovering her passion for medicine and patient care. Juggling coursework, her part-time foundation job, and visiting her mother was demanding, but it was a fulfilling exhaustion, starkly different from the soul-crushing weariness of waiting tables under Frank. Lucas remained a supportive presence, checking in periodically, offering encouragement, and acting as a mentor. He also fulfilled Emma's wish, inviting Sam over for dinner one weekend. Seeing Emma in her home environment, surrounded by adaptive equipment, but also by warmth and Lucas's obvious love, deepened Sam's understanding of the challenges families like theirs faced. Emma was thrilled to see helper elf Sam, again, proudly showing off her drawings and talking excitedly about school. A genuine bond began to form between them, easy and natural. Sam found herself becoming not just a recipient of Lucas's generosity, but a friend to both him and his daughter. There were still moments of self-doubt. Imposter syndrome nipped at her heels. Was she really qualified? Could she handle the pressure of both school and the foundation? But the memory of Frank's diner, the gratitude in her mother's eyes, and the encouraging smiles of Lucas and Emma spurred her onward. She was no longer just surviving. She was actively building a future. Sam thrived over the next year and a half. She excelled in her nursing classes, her practical skills sharp, her bedside manner naturally compassionate. At the foundation, she quickly moved beyond administrative tasks, taking on more responsibility in program coordination, her insights proving invaluable. Her first-hand experience with the healthcare system's frustrations, both as a caregiver for her mother and from her own deferred dreams, gave her a unique perspective. The Bennett Foundation was planning its most ambitious project yet, the launch of a dedicated pediatric resource advocacy center within Fairview. It aimed to be a one-stop hub for families with chronically ill or disabled children, offering everything from navigating insurance and finding specialists to support groups and adaptive recreation programs. Lucas, impressed by Sam's progress and passion, put her in charge of coordinating the community outreach and family intake process for the center's grand opening. It was a huge vote of confidence, but also an immense responsibility. Sam felt a surge of both excitement and terror. This was her chance to make a real impact, to help families avoid the kind of struggles she and her mother had endured. But the logistics were complex, the stakes high. She poured herself into the work, liaising with healthcare providers, designing intake forms, training volunteers, and planning the opening day event. Simultaneously, she was preparing for her final nursing exams and clinical rotations. The pressure was immense. There were days she felt utterly overwhelmed, staring at spreadsheets and textbooks until her eyes blurred, convinced she would fail. One particularly challenging week, juggling a difficult clinical rotation with a major planning deadline for the center, brought her close to tears. She confided in Lucas during one of their check-ins, admitting she felt in over her head. Lucas listened patiently, then shared stories of his own early struggles building the business, reminding her of her resilience and the importance of the work she was doing. "You've got this, Sam," he assured her. "Don't doubt yourself now." Emma, too, became an unexpected source of encouragement. Now 12, she was a frequent visitor to the foundation office after school, often sitting quietly drawing while Sam worked. Seeing Sam stressed, Emma appointed herself Chief Encouragement Officer, leaving cheerful notes and surprisingly insightful comments on Sam's whiteboard. Emma was also making progress herself, mastering a new power mobility device, and her growing confidence was inspiring. As the center's opening day approached, Sam worked tirelessly, coordinating last-minute details, finalizing schedules, and preparing her own short speech for the event. This event wasn't just a project launch. It felt like the culmination of her entire journey, from a struggling waitress to a soon-to-be nurse and patient advocate, ready to make a difference. The night before the opening, she stood looking at the brightly lit, welcoming space of the new center, a mix of nerves and profound gratitude washing over her. She was ready. The grand opening of the Bennett Foundation Pediatric Resource Advocacy Center buzzed with energy. Families, healthcare professionals, community leaders, and news reporters filled the brightly decorated space. Sam, dressed professionally but with her nursing pin proudly displayed, having passed her final exams just days before, moved through the crowd, ensuring everything ran smoothly, her earlier nerves replaced by focused determination. Lucas gave the opening remarks, speaking emotionally about his late wife's passion for compassionate care and his hopes for the center's impact. He publicly thanked Sam for her dedication and vision in bringing the family outreach component to life, causing her to blush as applause filled the room. Then, a minor crisis erupted. The representative from a key adaptive equipment vendor, scheduled to do demonstrations, called in sick at the last minute. Panic flickered among the event staff. Without hesitation, Sam stepped in. Drawing on her recent clinical knowledge and her natural empathy, she quickly familiarized herself with the demo equipment. She spent the next hour personally engaging with families, patiently demonstrating devices, answering questions not just about the mechanics, but about how these tools could integrate into daily life, easing burdens for both child and caregiver. Her ability to connect, to understand their concerns on a human level, turned a potential setback into one of the event's highlights. Later, it was Sam's turn to speak. Standing at the podium, she looked out at the hopeful faces of the families, saw Lucas give her an encouraging nod, and saw Emma beaming from her wheelchair in the front row. She spoke not from notes, but from the heart, about the challenges families face, the importance of support, and her own journey from feeling lost to finding purpose. Her genuine emotion and quiet conviction resonated deeply with the audience. As the event wound down, a clear success, Emma wheeled herself over and presented Sam with a carefully drawn picture. It depicted Sam wearing a nurse's cap and a superhero cape, holding hand with Emma outside the news center. "You really are a helper elf, Sam," Emma whispered, giving her a hug. In that moment, surrounded by the positive energy of the center, Sam knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The Pediatric Resource Advocacy Center quickly became an invaluable asset to the Fairview community, exceeding its initial goals within the first 6 months. Sam, now a fully licensed RN, took on the official role of lead patient advocate and program coordinator, thriving in a position that perfectly blended her nursing skills and her compassionate heart. She implemented innovative support groups and streamlined the process for families accessing resources, earning praise from both clients and colleagues. With her stable income and fulfilling career, Sam was finally able to provide her mother with the best possible care and peace of mind. While her mother's illness remained serious, her quality of life improved significantly, and she took immense pride in her daughter's achievements. The Fairview Cedar Spoon, under the management of a capable and kind leader handpicked by Lucas, with input from staff like Brenda, transformed into a positive workplace, known for good food and genuinely friendly service. Lucas Bennett continued to oversee his business empire, but the foundation, and particularly the new center, held a special place in his heart. His professional relationship with Sam deepened into a strong, supportive friendship. They shared a profound mutual respect and a bond forged through adversity, shared values, and their mutual affection for Emma. Weekends often found Sam joining Lucas and Emma for low-key activities, park visits, movie nights, shared meals. They weren't trying to replace the past, but were slowly, organically building a new kind of future, looking like nothing so much as a family. Sam often reflected on that rainy Friday night at the diner. An exhausted waitress, an undercover owner, a disabled child. A simple act of kindness, offered without expectation of reward, had unknowingly set in motion a chain of events that fundamentally changed not just her life, but the lives of Lucas, Emma, and countless families in Fairview. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures hold the greatest power.